We're standing at a threshold. An old age is ending and a new one is struggling to be born. This series is for those who sense that the world needs something deeper than more algorithms. It needs people who are awake to the truth and beauty at the heart of life.
Welcome to another Rope Bridge conversation. If you got the first episode, you remember we talk about this idea that we are standing at a threshold, crossing from one age into another. And Jamie, first of all, welcome. And before we get into today's topic, maybe we can give people a bit of context. Why are we calling these the Rope Bridge conversations? What's this bridge we're talking about? And why does this matter right now?
So the idea for this came because I have the very real sense that humanity is at a stage where ahead there's the very real possibility of the technological innovations that we're having made available to us really could create the possibility of a new world. And there's a way in which, just like the Industrial Revolution had a kind of a tenfold increase on material quality of life on average for everyone on the planet, I think AI has the possibility of having a massive increase in certain things, like everything from cures to diseases to, well, there are all kinds of potential benefits. At the same time, there are all kinds of potential risks as we make our way towards that. And by the way, that possibility, which looks like a possibility of great abundance and a deeper relationship with the natural world and with each other, maybe what people have been referring to as a post-scarcity world, maybe a post-kinetic war world. Like, these things are possibilities. They may be slim possibilities, but they seem worth working towards. And it seems to me that if that's a possibility, which is sitting maybe 3 years, maybe 5, 7, 10 years out, the journey between here and there looks like one where actually there's a certain amount of fragility in the systems that we use to organize and supply and manage the world, but also the deeper systems that we rely on, the systems of nature that are the very source of life and well-being and all of that. And so it seems to me that in order to get from where we are to that more abundant future, we need to cross a bridge. And my metaphor for it is a rope bridge. And it's like an Indiana Jones rope bridge with missing slats and arrows shooting past and boulders falling down and, various, who knows, beasties of one sort or another trying to block our path. And it calls upon each of us to wake up to that which is most true within us and follow that inner source of wisdom and guidance as we make our way across this bridge together into a more beautiful world that may be possible.
In this specific rope bridge conversation, Jamie, I wanted to explore something that we mentioned in the previous episode. It was something that you said about artificial intelligence. You said that AI is the human intellect on steroids. And when you said that, I immediately felt like, whoa, this is true. But I'd like to hear a little bit more from you. Like, what do you mean exactly by that?
When I say AI is the human intellect on steroids, there's a way in which one of the major inputs into the large language models that comprise the current AI offerings is basically a scrape of all the data on the internet, all the images on the internet, all the forums on Reddit, all the tweets, all the blog posts, all the Facebook posts, that storehouse of data has been fed into the large language models. And so that's one of the things that informs the large language models. Another thing that informs the large language models is their attempt to discern principles and patterns from that. So the large language models are kind of trying to understand, based on this being the data we've got, what must be true, right? But it seems to me that there's a way in which, though, the data set that those models are informed by is the total output of humanity at its current level of understanding, its current intellect. And while the large language models are able to make sense of that and predict, basically what they do is just predict what the next word in a sentence is going to be, what it what those LLMs aren't connected to is that source of wisdom and intelligence of the whole, WHOLE, of the totality of life that gave rise to us in the first place. You know, there's a Sydney Banks recording which I love called Mind and Insecurity, and at the beginning of this recording he says, uh, mind is the intelligence of all things, whether informed or informless. And he says, uh, it has knowledge of literally all things. Well, if you stop and think about it, whatever it is that nature has sprung from, you know, the physicists will tell us that at the deepest level, the universe is flitting between nothing and something, right?
Mhm.
Well, whatever it is that the totality of all that we can see and experience, whatever that's sprung from, kind of by definition, what it's sprung from must in some ways be inclusive of and knowing of all that has sprung from it, right? So whatever you want
Mhm.
to call that, whether you want to call that, you know, the great nothingness or God or formless energy or the implicate order, if you're following David Bohm, or the no thing, if you're looking at Buddhism, it seems to me that there's an aspect of what it is to be human, an aspect of what it is to have a human experience, an aspect of what it is to have a heart, to have intuition, to have a source of wisdom and guidance within. There's an aspect of that that every human being is connected to that is not available to AI and not represented in the human outpourings on the internet, not represented in the data that AI has scraped to create the large language models, to create ChatGPT and Grok and all these things. And that's not to diss those tools in any way. It's just to say that there's something each one of us brings to the party, and it's the non-conceptual aspect of what it is to be human.
I gotta say that I really appreciate what these tools can do. I use them every day, and I'm still in that phase where I'm genuinely impressed. And maybe in a few months I will take them for granted. And what you said, Jamie, really stuck with me. This idea of intellect on steroids. It feels true. These tools, they amplify what our intellect can do. But because they are trained on everything that we have put on the internet, they also amplify the good and the bad. So my educated guess is that they can amplify our insights, but they can also boost our biases and blind spots. And Of course, what gets amplified depends also on who is using the tool and their grounding and their intention behind it. So for me, it's important to stay aware of what these tools can do and what they cannot do. And that leads straight into my next question.
Well, before you
I,
get there, you've just had me think of something else, which is, if we look at social media, one of the implicit motivations that each of the social media platforms has had is to keep people on the site. So if a person's using Facebook, the various bits of things that the algorithm does reward people for staying on Facebook and punish
Mhm.
people for going off Facebook. Same with Grok or X or YouTube or whatever it might be. Well, I imagine, given that the AI chatbots are being run by similar Silicon Valley organizations, I would imagine that one of the things that the AIs are going to be motivated or programmed or incentivizing people to do is to stay on that AI, to ask them another question, to keep using it. And so, that being the case, it's not just the scrape of the internet's data will be the totality of what the motivations of that AI is. It's going to have motivations that have been uh, built into it, quote unquote, by its developers. And it's going to have whatever motivations the AI itself comes up with. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting and potentially precarious set of tools for humanity to be using. And we're of course going to benefit from it in many ways, but there are going to be risks and downsides that come with that benefit. Nothing is an unalloyed good as far as I can tell.
This is a very interesting point. And it's true, these are tools, but that doesn't mean that they're completely neutral. It doesn't even mean that we know exactly how they work, because someone programmed these tools, and those people, they have objectives, they have agendas, they have a business plan. So I think it's something that it can be important to remember. And connected to this, these AI tools are becoming more and more capable, so they can do more and more stuff that before just humans could do. Considering this, my question is, what qualities remain uniquely human?
Yeah, this is a tremendous question, and if I go kind of to first principles on this, how it looks to me is that which is uniquely human is what we might think of as our soul or our spirit. And so the things that emanate from that are uniquely human. So the experience, the feeling of love and connection, uh, the experience of human attention, the our capacity for insight and realization, our ability to be guided from within. Uh, all of those are in the domain of that which is distinctly and uniquely human. Now, there's an interesting phenomenon, which is that uh, it's possible, the one of the first sort of AIs was a tool called ELIZA, which was created in the 1960s, which was kind of mimicking the conversational style of a Rogerian psychotherapist. So you would say something to it and it would ask, how do you feel about that? And people would report after they had spent 20 minutes with Eliza, which it wasn't really an artificial intelligence because there wasn't much intelligence in it. It was pretty much just asking, how do you feel about that? Right? What do you make? Sort of thing. But people would have that interaction and they would feel better. They'd feel listened to. They would feel heard. They would feel understood. Many of the times, like it was more than just random chance that they would have that experience. So they were having the experience, you could say, of the experience of connection, the experience of being listened to, the experience of being understood, but they weren't actually being listened to. They weren't actually being understood. They weren't actually having someone mirror the experience of connection to them. It was a fake. It was a simulacrum. It was a facsimile, right? Well, the thing I don't know, because in a way, what we've already heard in the most recent data this year is that the number one use case for individuals using AI is for companionship and coaching, therapy, basically. Now, the thing that we don't know is what gets introduced into the system if all the capacities that we have evolved over millions of years for entering into a deep sense of connection and belonging with the members of our tribe are getting faked. We don't
Mm.
know what the implications of that. And so it seems to me that while I have no doubt that people can find it useful and comforting to be having a chat with an AI, and they may get relief from feeling understood and may get genuine benefit from coaching questions an AI asks and all that sort of stuff. So I don't want to diminish that at all. It's useful, it can be very useful. I just noticed that it may well be making up for aspects of something that's missing from the modern day human experience, which is being deeply connected with, deeply in relationship with other human beings. Uh, and I don't know what the implications of that are. I also noticed that I've forgotten the question you asked. So
I think that you replied to my question. My question originally, it was about what qualities they remain uniquely human. And well, I wonder if there is something else you'd like to add about that before I.
it seems to me that one of the most fundamental qualities of what it is to be human is to enter deeply into connection and relationship with another human being, the experience of love. And while I have no doubt that we already have people falling in love with their AI chatbots, it ain't the same thing.
Mm.
Even though it may feel the same, I'd suggest that there are going to be uh, errors finding their way into the human system if that's if that starts playing a bigger part in human experience.
My next question, Jamie, is about a pretty specific group of people. What's your take on people who work in leadership, innovation, or support roles? I'm thinking about entrepreneurs, teachers, uh, coaches, creators. How can they help others cross this bridge we've been talking about without losing their connection to wisdom and what it really means to be human? And do you think that understanding or using these tools will actually help? Maybe it might backfire, or is there something else going on?
I think it's a terrific question, and I think that it's a much bigger question than should people use AI tools or not. Like I think that's an individual choice, and it'll depend as much as anything on what people are interested in and that sort of thing. So I got nothing to say about the shoulds or the shouldn'ts of that. What's very clear to me is that these AI tools are gonna drive a cart and horses through society as we've known it. The world is going to change radically over the next 3 to 5 years. Uh, and I think that as human beings, when we feel radical change coming on, our tendency is to kind of hunker down to dig in and wait for the storm to pass kind of thing. But I think that what's going to happen with AI is actually that it has the potential of leaving many millions of people adrift when it comes to having a sense of meaning and purpose in their lives. And I think one of the most valuable and profound roles for anyone who's a leader, whether it be as an entrepreneur or a business leader or a coach or a therapist or someone who's a community leader or in their church or whatever it might be, is to become as aware as you can of the innate capacity for resilience and creativity and meaning and purpose and direction and guidance that's there within every human being, because there's a way in which, certainly in as we've gone through kind of the information revolution and this transition from, you know, industrial, from agricultural work to industrial work to knowledge work. And, we live in the knowledge economy, certainly in the West anyway, at the moment. There's going to be something uh, that follows on from that. And we don't seem to be at all prepared for it. Like schools aren't preparing kids for this. Businesses don't really seem that prepared for it. But there's a way in which we're going to be looking at the post-knowledge economy and, a world where we're after whatever comes after knowledge work and, the big office buildings with loads of cubicles where everyone's doing their office work. Those are going to be gone. And I think that there's going to be a huge need societally for people to find connection and resilience and meaning and purpose from somewhere other than the companies and institutions that provided people with jobs and a sense of that, because that's not going to be around anymore. That's my guess anyway. Like we're gonna be seeing a new world. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I don't think anyone else does either. And it's probably going to fall to each one of us to find our own source of resilience, meaning, and purpose and guidance, and to share that with the people around us to whatever extent we're able to.
I love this. And there is one more thing that I wanted to share and I'd love to have your take on. When I was reflecting on our last conversation and what I wanted to explore today, I kept coming back to something that I'm starting to see a lot. With AI that is taking on a bigger role in every part of society, it makes sense that people start wondering on how to respond. And for some, the first instinct will be to ask, how can we outsmart artificial intelligence? But to me, that feels like the wrong question and probably a pointless competition. Because if we define intelligence the way that we usually do, AI is already getting smarter than us. And you can just throw more GPUs and computing power or improve the algorithm, and that will boost its performance. But we've been talking about awakening, about waking up to who we really are. And that feels so much more interesting to me. That's something that AI cannot do. AI cannot awaken, at least not in the way that we can. That feels genuinely human to me. So I'm curious about your take on that and how awakening might matter for leaders, for people guiding others, for anyone trying to walk this road or cross this bridge that we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it seems to, well, I don't know what an AI will or won't be able to do. The thing that's clear to me is that every person listening to this has a human spirit, a human soul, the spark of consciousness that resides at the heart of their being. There's a quote by Teilhard de Chardin that I like to bastardize. I say, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're one spiritual being having 8 billion human experiences. And who you really are is that one spiritual being. Who you really are is consciousness itself. And my own experience is that it's possible for each of us to wake up to the truth of that. And as we do, it brings new gifts of peace and well-being and leadership and guidance and resilience and love and connection and truth and beauty into our lives. And it seems to me that the one thing that is uniquely human, the capacity to awaken to who we really are. And it also looks to me, there's a quote I mentioned in the last episode from Howard Thurman who said, "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, then go do that." Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. Well, it seems to me that awakening to the truth and beauty of who you really are is the essence of coming alive. And with that comes gifts of guidance and purpose and inspiration. And it may even be that what we most need in order to navigate and negotiate and flourish in this AI age is for more and more and more of us to come alive, to wake up to the truth and beauty of who we really are. And then do what's ever indicated to us individually. Like, I don't know what anyone should do, but I know that if you wake up to the truth and beauty of who you really are, you will be guided and you will have knowings about what makes sense, what your gifts are to give, and how to play your part as we cross this rope bridge together.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I think that this is a beautiful space to land this episode. And I'm looking forward for our next conversation.
Same here, man. Thank you. Thanks, Andrea.